The year 2020 has been a year of change. Global changes have included COVID-19 pandemic, which has resulted in us all having to change our ways, especially with traveling on a global scale. Cutting down air traffic has bound many to their place when the regulations came. The world is not as small or open anymore as it used to be. On a regional scale, there have been wildfires and other natural catastrophes. In societies, some people have demanded rights that they should have by default, more visibly than in years, and there have been demonstrations and confrontations in many places around the world. Individually, people have also gone through changes. Some have lost or quit their job, some found a new one. Some have faced economic challenges and some have overcome them. Relatives, family members and friends have passed away and babies have been born. Relationships have been broken and new have been formed. We haven't been able to see some people important to us physically, but we've been able to connect to them and many others via technology. Children have had to do learning outside of school context and stay away from their important social groups. Adults have had to learn working from home, some meanwhile helping their children in education. We all have faced changes of some kind this year, big or small. We face changes normally also, but this year it has been more rapid, more serious and more visible, and more in number and ways. My name is Jani Kontkanen and you are listening to Mitä pelataan podcast. This series is called Paragons of Change. It's a series of interviews with people from boardgaming sphere whom I've noticed going through changes in recent times. We talk about change and what they have changed in their lives. By default, we do not claim we state facts. We only talk from our own points of view and our opinions. As the discussion might take a negative note at times, we try to finish with a positive, by giving you a top 9 list of games. The topic of the list has been chosen by the guest, and we will have a battle of the lists after the episode airs in my social media channels. You, dear listener, are encouraged to comment and vote on the lists to see which one of us did better. The award is pride and fame among the small listener base this podcast has. Now, let's invite our Paragon for today. So this is the series called Paragons of Change, and the first guest I have today here is Richard Simpson. Welcome.
Yay! Hello. Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I hate to say this, because I was thinking about this earlier on. It's like, how can you actually, under this circumstances, kind of be good? But I gave it some long thought, and I think, 2020's been a year, but all in all, I can't. I'd like to sit and complain and grumble, but there's things I can complain about in a bigger term. But mostly I can't. I get up in the morning, I'm healthy. The family's all doing well, parental units and everything like that are fine. Nobody's been horrifically ill. Everybody's working and got jobs and stuff like that. So, yeah, I could be doom and gloom if you want, but I'm not going to be. It's good,
No,
yeah.
Don't be.
It's
Actually, just be what you are, or be yourself. If you're doom and gloom, then be. But if you're not, then don't be.
We're all doomed to condemnation. No.
That doesn't sound very magical.
No.
Who are you if people don't know who you are?
Who am I? I am the little wizard that could. No, I am...
Wait, repeat, what? You're what?
I am Gandalf's right-hand man. I am the spellcaster extraordinaire. I am the person who put the bibbidi into the bibbidi bobbidi doo boo in bread beds. No, my name's Richard. I run the We're Not Wizards collection of various media things, which most people will know me for running a podcast for a number of years, where I interviewed guests and I also had a few episodes with a co-host for a while, and I did about 400 of them.
That's quite a lot.
400 hours of, well, it was about, the way I worked out, it was about 500 hours of kind of audible kind of content, which kind of is like the Harry Potter books several times over, which is kind of, quite strange. So there you go. Yeah, so
Same level of writing in both. Right?
same level. Yeah, same level of writing, and also I'm not a TERF. So there you go. So there's that obvious kind of thing. No, that's it. Yeah, kind of. I kind of stumbling along the magical path of life, kind of trying to deny my own magical wizardry. I guess I'm rambling. You need to stop me.
Actually, 2 days ago I was thinking that why no one has said that you're Richard Simpson.
That's so good. Wow. That is so good.
Because I was thinking that if wizard was pronounced in Finnish, it would be Richard, and you can easily make R into W. So I thought that why no one said Richard Simpson. That would suit well.
That just makes everything kind of come in, because we can't. I mean, in this world nowadays where things are a little bit more in terms of the gender fluidity.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of practicing magic, I suppose it depends. If you're a little bit more organic, if you like getting in amongst the entrails and the kind of the real meat of the problem, and I guess being a witch isn't necessarily a bad thing. And it would also mean I'd be able to, Halloween, be able to buy one of those horrific sexy witch costumes, which you always see online, and I'd be able to go about the houses with and basically try and collect candy.
As long as you have the hat.
As long as I'm wearing my hat. Imagine, I can't think of anything scarier in the world than somebody opening the door and me standing there in some kind of sexy witch kind of outfit. I think I'd probably last about 3 houses until I kind of got arrested. But I mean, obviously Halloween isn't that long. I mean, do you have? I mean, over here in Scotland, we have our tradition called guising, which the Americans call trick or treat, but they don't know what they're talking about. But we call it guising, which is based around the term disguising. So what you used to do is you used to go around and disguise yourself as various kind of spirits and things like that, and basically kind of tell people they had to give you treats or otherwise something terrible would happen to them. And that kind of went on. Have you got kind of like similar traditions? Do you even celebrate kind of?
Yeah, we have this in a way All Saints Day.
Yes.
That it's very old tradition that you in a way think about the spirits, and kids dress up as witches and wizards and some other spiritual creatures, but we didn't have this trick or treating. We didn't go and ask someone to give us something. We were just disguising. But it seems that it comes from over the Atlantic Ocean, that you have to always ask for something. If you want to do something, you don't do anything without some kind of price or salary or something else. Yeah,
you were supposed to you're supposed to kind of do a performance in order to be rewarded. You didn't just turn up and say, give us sweets. You're meant to actually kind of do a song or a poem or a little rhyme or a joke or something like that. And then you were meant to get of course they've commercialised it all up the wazoo. So, you know, they've kind of turned it into, you can go and you can buy entire things full of candy, and it's all horrifically vulgar, as you would say nowadays, which is fine. So I'm going to remember, I've actually written down Witchard, because I think I remember.
Actually, if you pronounce the Witchard like that, it's how a Finn would pronounce wizard if they don't pronounce it English way. But you made it into this gender thing, so you can have your gender.
Yeah, well, I'm a
neutrality.
I could say, you know, I'm rocking the ability to be fluid when it comes to Halloween, because it is the time.
Yeah, that's true.
For All Saints Day. So that is, I mean, let's face it. If you don't learn something new every day, then what are you doing?
That's true.
And secondly, it's an extra bonus if you actually learn something new about yourself.
That's also good.
That is also good. So yeah, so that's where I'm from. So this is where we're on Tangent City. I do a podcast. I still do podcasts. Well, I don't do podcasts as much. but I kind of host other people's shows now, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'm going back to the tangent. We went to shop today and they had put the Halloween stuff up already. And it was so much too early. And nowadays the kids are doing this Halloween stuff, at least where we live. We are living in this area of villas. Everyone lives in their own home. So the kids come from door to door and then they say that trick or treat. They don't make a performance though, but if they have good outfit, I'm usually giving candy. And the wife is also giving some candy. But they never do tricks.
I remember when I was living in Edinburgh, and I lived in a block of flats, or a block of apartments you would call them, and the local kids kind of all came round in their various kind of costumes and things like that. And then there was, and I still remember it to this day because it was the most endearing thing that I'd ever seen, which was there was a young girl turned up with her mother and knocked on the door, and she said she had come as a pile of rubbish, and she had basically had a black bin bag, and she had stuck kind of various discarded items like a plastic milk bottle and a kind of an empty cigarette packet and you know, stuff that wasn't going to rot, and they were obviously pretty poor. And it was like, just like, I was kind of like, because there was obviously folk turning out with skull masks and, you know, big robot outfits.
But that's great creativity.
But that creativity, and it was just the fact that this was somebody that had made an effort and kind of obviously didn't have the money to get them. I was just like, well, here you know. So I gave them some, I gave them a pile of sweets, and and it's always you kind of give them a couple of quid as well, a couple of pound as well. So that was kind of nice, but yeah, yeah, I think this year's going to be different. I don't know if the kids are going to be going around the houses, and I definitely don't know if there's going to be handing out kind of Halloween candy and stuff like that. I can't imagine that really. That kind of really being a thing. But yeah, this whole kind of let's start the celebration a month early, and it's like, we're not.
It's too much.
It's too much. Stop it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's good to transition now to the next part, that this year has been quite interesting since February or March. There is this coronavirus thing going on, and you already said that it's not sure if the kids will go from door to door and if there will be candies or not.
Yeah.
How is this corona, or how has it been visible in Scotland, and how's the situation at the moment?
Scotland's kind of interesting because there's always been, and I don't know if it's just naturally, just people from Scotland in general have always, there's a sense of patriotism, but it comes from the fact of people being kind of strong together. Whereas I always get, you know, when people said, right, okay, you've got to social distance, you've got to wear a mask, you've got to wash your hands, you've got to work from home. The general consensus from the Scottish people was kind of like, yeah, fair enough, sounds good. Whereas the impression that I get from our southern neighbours in England is that patriotism is all about kind of like being strong as yourself, and kind of the English as an identity, as a people, and that doesn't necessarily kind of mix or gel well with kind of authority. So there was automatically a bit of a kind of a less of an acceptance, and we're going to bend the rules, and we don't want to necessarily kind of toe the line kind of thing. So we've done okay. I think we've still had cases, and I think in all the UK has been bloody dreadful. But we had managed for a while to get to get what they call the R number, which is the replication number, down below 1. But I think naturally, like any capitalist society, is that when you've got people in higher places that need to continue to make billions that they don't pay tax on, there's been a push to get people kind of back to work, and there's been a push to get some kind of normality. And I think there's been a push for some kind of sanity, because I like it or not, as human beings, we're very, very much kind of social animals, and whether you like it or not, when you're at work, a lot of people probably spend more time with their work colleagues than they actually do with their partners that they've in many ways, met, fell in love with, and decided to have, children with. And then sometimes you spend more time with your work colleagues than you do with your own kids. And so I think generally with these things, or generally with big things, what happens is there's a big, huge, whoa, this is awful. And then what happens is that people kind of get used to it. So when we had like the Brexit vote, and everybody was like, we're going to leave Europe, and then there was this kind of expectation of everything going back to normality, which it kind of hasn't. And then we've then had the coronavirus thing, which is again, there was the big expectation of everything going back to normality, and it hasn't. I think it's been a bit of a struggle. I've got one of my kids. They were sitting their exams. They're one of their first set of their important exams, because we set kind of 2 sets of exams. The kids, we set like a kind of halfway through their higher education. They set a kind of a first set of exams that help decide the next level of qualifications that they do, that ultimately those qualifications decide which educational establishment they go to, if they go to a university or college. And over here, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but basically they weren't allowed to sit their first set of exams, so they had to go based on what the teachers thought of them, and their kind of mock exams that they sat before, which gave them an indication of potentially what they were going to score. So I
saw something in Twitter about that there was something about this grading things in UK. I didn't really read it that well, because I didn't know what it's about, but there was something that someone had some very good grades, and then they couldn't get somewhere where they were going to go because of one grade being not proper or something.
Again, it was kind of like, it was a strange kind of Scottish kind of English divide again. Because Scotland, while it is part of the United Kingdom, it has a certain amount of devolved power and responsibility that it can take, and one of it is the Scottish education system is pretty much kind of has power over pretty much what it does. So when the situation came up, because the teachers were giving the kids the grades, and the grades were based on the kind of the mock exams, the First Minister at the time basically said, like, don't worry about it, we'll get it sorted out for you. If you're under your grades, then we'll go through the selection process and we'll just appeal it all. And it got sorted out. Meanwhile in England, it looks like their algorithm, and I'm not anti-English, I just think they're...
Yeah, that's what I just saw as well.
It's just that they do just things that you go, what are you doing? It's like, I know you won the World Cup once, but you really need to get over yourselves. Because they've still got this big sense of patriotism and all that nonsense, like they're an empire where they're not. And that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
Anyway, what happened was that they got their grades handed out, and the government, the education minister, kind of went tough. And if you want to appeal, you have to appeal. But the issue was, it turned out that the algorithm that they were using to discern what grades these kids got was a postcode kind of lottery. So depending on the area that these kids were living in, the poorer kids were more likely to get their grades kind of marked down, while the richer, more affluent kids
That's ridiculous.
were more likely to get their grades upgraded. And it led into this big kind of, is this class? Is this them trying to keep, kind of more affluent children who are more likely to grow into kind of Tory voters, as opposed to poorer children who are more likely to grow into being opposition voters, kind of thing. So it was that kind of whole thing as well. So yeah, so it's been kind of interesting. People have been working from home. People have been trying to get back to work. We've got a strange situation at the moment where technically I can't have my kids around because my 2 eldest live with my ex-wife, so they can't come round to my house at the moment for any period of time, because we're not kind of in this kind of bubble-like relationship kind of thing. However, I can go and take them to a restaurant and we can sit about quite the thing and meet everything.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's the same with my mother. I can't actually go up and spend any time in my mum's house. However, I could take her out to the local garden centre and go and sit in the restaurant there and have a cup of coffee and literally spend as long as I want. So there's a lot of different...
It's a bit silly.
It's been just very strange. I think people are trying to adjust it. I think, I think there's been stupid mistakes made, ignorant mistakes, and also mistakes made based on business and profit.
Yes.
And I think and I understand where it's coming from, but again, I've got issues about companies that refuse to pay, that go out of their way to pay tax, getting government handouts. That really irks me. That was one of the things that the government refused to draw guidelines and stuff. So it's just, I think, and not getting a bit philosophical, but I think the thing about COVID and the thing about Brexit and the thing about Trump and the thing about everything that we see, the rise of the right wing and potential authoritarianism kind of in regimes and stuff like that, is over the last probably 10 years, culture has become a very much a big kind of, something becomes very big for all of 30 seconds and then it disappears.
And
That's
true.
And pretty much over the last maybe 10 years, if not even shorter, maybe 7 years, we've been taught that any great tragedy or anything like that, people naturally normalise it and they learn to live with it, and it fades away very, very quickly. And we're in this kind of situation where, like it or loathe it, you've had a long period of instability, which some people would say, or brilliance in America, depending on what side you're on. We've had a large period of instability with regards to our relationship with Europe, or it's been absolutely fantastic, depending on what side of the fence that you're on. But it's continuing. It's like death by a 1,000 cuts. And this coronavirus, everybody kind of, it's like, it's the old thing about the First World War, well, it'll be over by Christmas kind of thing. And people, what they were expecting when it took off in December, they were like, well, this is the flu. And they expected it to act like the flu. And then they expected it to get to March and die off, and it didn't. And then they expected it to get to June when it was really, really hot, and it didn't. And now we're heading into the arse end of the year, looking October down the barrel of a gun, and it's not going anywhere. And I think for everybody's mental health, including my own, it's been extraordinarily difficult. And I think it has forced people to assess what they're doing and in some ways make changes to what they're doing and really have a look. And I think for a lot of people like myself, it's, and I said this at the beginning, it's been actually fairly positive.
Yeah.
In terms that if I cut out certain parts of the horrible mess or the wonderful mess, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, actually I've been working from home since end of February, beginning of March. My boss turned round and basically said, right, off you go.
But go, that's quite quick reaction, actually.
Yeah, well, I think at my work, we're all quite long in the tooth. We're all quite old. I'm one of the youngest members of staff there, and I'm looking down the grand old age of, the barrel of the gun that is known as 50 years old. I'm not too far off from that, to be perfectly honest. And so their attitude was, this isn't about us, this is about because a lot of them, we've all got parents that are still alive. So we thought, well, if it's going to affect anybody, it's going to potentially affect our parents. So they just went, we're not going to risk it. We are an IT I work for an IT company. We can work from home, and that's what happened. But interestingly enough, the change from it was all of a sudden I got like an hour and a half a day back in terms of time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I didn't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore. I can roll out of bed. If I roll out of bed at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm still got plenty of time to get ready, and then just sit at my desk and do work. And there's there's not that Monday morning thing.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing.
You know, it's like, it's Monday, you know, it's like, oh, it's Monday, but I guess you're in the house, you're in that familiarity, you've kind of set yourself up. You've got your kind of, you want to get a cup of tea, you kind of get a cup of tea. I miss the social aspect of actually speaking to work colleagues, but you've kind of got Microsoft Teams, and we're actually all fairly independent in what we do, so we kind of don't work together. This is my, you know, giving an awful lot of information here. I'm probably oversharing, but there you go. So in terms of that, it's been a fairly, it's been a fairly kind of positive thing. It did give me a chance to kind of assess kind of what I was doing in relation to the We're Not Wizards stuff, basically.
Here we got, I'm working in a university, so we got a like 1 day notice that at, I don't remember, was it 17th of March or something, at 4 o'clock the university will be locked, you can't come here anymore. So we were allowed to enter in July without special permission. So 3 months, no entrance to the university. So basically we were forced to work home. It was good and it was bad because, like you said, the social aspect was missing a bit because no coffee breaks and no lunch breaks and such with the colleagues.
Yeah.
But there are Teams and other tools that you can use to communicate, but it's not the same thing. And also you don't see people at the corridors. You can't just ask when you pass by that, by the way, that thing, how was it? Blah, blah, blah. Or whatever short question you have to always send a message and you have to prepare the message. Or in a way, it takes so much extra time to do all of those things using the computer and not just walking past someone and just quickly saying something or asking something.
Yeah, it's like, I guess what I found at work is there's less of the kind of the idle kind of chit chat type thing. I think people that are very highly motivated have used this as an excuse to start work at, 8 o'clock in the morning and finish at 7:30 at night, and use it as, well, I was leaving to go to work at 8 o'clock and I wasn't getting home at 7:30, so I might as well devote that to extra work. And I think some people have really, some people have really discovered that, they've done tons of extra work. I think there's some people who have really struggled with motivation and kind of sitting there and just going, I think it's maybe made people think whether or not their job is just a load of crap.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
bound to be folk kind of sitting there going, what's the point of this? What am I doing this for? Am I actually doing this? Is this actually doing anything apart from me making somebody else above me a lot more money and allowing me to pay my rent or my mortgage or something like that? So I think there's been a lot of questions. I think, there was, so there's been that kind of thing, which I think has been quite interesting. It's really taught, I've seen countless tweets on social media or messages on social media to say that who knew all along that we could have had people who had disabilities kind of working from home, and people who had access problems working from home, and all these different kind of things, and we didn't need a huge office, and people didn't need to travel 3 hours a day for their work. So it's been quite, that's been kind of interesting. I guess the other thing is, as well as people actually saying, here's the first time that people are paying £1,500 to live in a flat, and they're actually getting their money's worth because they're actually living in their flat instead of spending 10 hours a day travelling and going to work, and then spending the weekend out and about because just sitting in their flat kind of depresses them. So there's that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all very, 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 very strange. I'm aware I talk too much.
Yeah, but it's all on the topic because I'm interested in what you think about change, and you've said so many examples already. So all of it is related to what I would have asked later. You already answered it in a way. But what do you think about change as a whole?
In relation to what's happened over the last couple of months, or
as a whole? Change in general. What do you think about it? Is it good or is it bad or is it situational?
I think
any kind of change. Now, of course, we have so many examples because of how the world is at the moment, and the world has been changing, especially this year.
I think
more than in many years, and this is rapid change. I mean, world has changed, of course, earlier already, but it's been slower.
I think it's interesting that we've seen a real strive for social change, and in terms of people have actually said, folk have said, well, let's not have this, and people have said, yeah, no. It's just like, no, let's not have this anymore, and people went, oh, okay.
Did they really?
I think change is a strange thing, because you've got change when it's kind of required, and then you've got the drive for people who want to change things due to not knowing where they actually want to be, and you can get different examples of that. So change can be a very good thing. People can sit down and say, right, I need to do something not necessarily better, or I need to do something kind of like a different way, and that can kind of promote change. I think it can be a very powerful thing for somebody to actually take an action which can be slightly different or incredibly difficult for them to actually do. I also think change can be a dangerous thing in terms of avoiding what you should actually be tackling as well. I know of people who would much rather change a job and go from job to job and say, oh, this boss was terrible to work with, this boss was terrible to work with, this boss was terrible to work with. And then you ask them, why is your boss terrible to work with? And you realise that they would walk into the office every morning and go, all right, you idiot. That kind of thing. And it's like, oh, that's probably why the boss doesn't like you, because you're, calling them an idiot. And it's that. So I think, there's people use change as a kind of a defence thing to, in order to avoid the realities of their situation. Doing something different or changing the way that they act, it helps them to get away from things that they should be doing for themselves, changing them circumstances instead of changing their own kind of activities and potential attitude. There's been a big push not for change, but for people to use lockdown as a way to change things about themselves and learn things about themselves, and a big push to say, well, what new skill are you learning? How are you changing yourselves? How are you improving yourselves? And I think that puts in a lot of unnecessary pressure on people.
Yes. I think so too, because you don't necessarily have to change. I think, at least.
I think give me somebody who's happy and content with where they are.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. Because they're generally kind of, you can see that they're generally more content with their life,
yeah.
Whereas I think people that strive for change all the time, I think you have to have times where you sit back and smell the flowers, if you know what I mean. Appreciate what you've done and what you've changed. So there was a big kind of thing of what skill are you learning over the lockdown? And I was almost kind of like, why?
Yeah, that's true. Some people, especially those people who are all the time this change and learning new things and doing something new all the time, they were probably so bored at home if they were locked down. I mean, it might have been difficult for some to be bored and to face the boredom.
Yeah.
The stability.
Yeah. But then, on the same time, I think there's a lack of appreciation of being bored.
Yes, exactly.
I know.
And you can learn from being bored.
Yeah, there's an interesting, and this is going completely off track, but one of
what a surprise.
One of my favourite, you asked me on.
Yeah.
One of my favourite books of all time is Nightwatch by Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett. Yeah.
Terry Pratchett's a fantastic book, and if you've never read it, go ahead and read it, even if you're not a fan of Pratchett, because some of the stuff that is written in this book is absolutely gold. But there is a part where they are talking about it's Havelock Veterinary, who is the veterinary, who is going to be the chancellor or whatever of Ankh-Morpork. But he is basically he's out in the courtyard, and the watchman at the time says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm just standing still, doing nothing. I'm just learning how to stand very, very still." And that's all. But it's a skill to... There's a big push for people to just not enjoy doing something. To just like, do you like knitting? Yeah, I really like knitting. So over the last kind of 6 months now, I've always meant to do it, but I always wanted to do a bit of baking.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So I've been making biscuits, and I've been making chocolate cake, and I've been making Victoria sponge, and I've been making all different types of things, and I've not gone...
I still want that banana cake recipe, by the way. You still didn't send it to me.
Did I not send it? I'll need to give it to you. I'll send you the link, because I don't know it off the top of my... It's a Dove's... I used the company I get the flour off is called Dove's, and they have an excellent banana bread recipe, which yes, and it's funny, and I've been making this stuff, banana bread and biscuits and everything like that, and a lot of people have come back and says, "Oh, you should go on the great, you'll be applying for the Great British Bake Off next." And it's...
Do you need to go?
And it's kind of like, no, I kind of just want to make it because I like making kind of biscuits. So there's often a drive to say to people, "Oh, you're learning a new skill. You need to learn how you can get stuff out of it and
benefit from something." Yeah,
monetize it and stuff like that, which just to me just seems a bit strange. But there you...
I'll go on a wrong track also, but I just like few weeks ago I was hanging around in Instagram, and I saw that so many people there, random people, they are either calling themselves influencers or athletes. Why? I mean, are you really? I mean, it's really interesting that they are influencers or athletes, and it in a way guides how they are shown there. I mean, why do you need to be? Can't you just be something? Sit back and relax and enjoy not doing anything. Now it's possible.
I think it can have a detrimental effect on somebody's mental health as well, because one of the things that I've done recently, well, one of the things I decided during the pandemic was that it felt like a good time now that I'd reached kind of 400 episodes to kind of to put the podcast on holiday for a bit. We'd reached 400 episodes. I'd had various wonderful guests, including your good self, on the show, and it felt like a good time just to take stock and kind of like have a break and kind of do something different. But what I've noticed about board game kind of media is there's so many people kind of... It's not something... It's like almost if you tot up the number of board game designers and you put together the number of kind of people who are creating media for the tabletop space, they're not too different in the numbers.
Yeah, it's about the same. I don't know, maybe there's even more media people if you count them individually, not channel-wise. It's just like a huge number, which is fine, which is fair enough. Yeah, but it's like all the designers have their own private consultant or advertiser. It's very interesting if you think about the numbers. That's actually a good point. I never thought like that.
Well, I think I think I've said this in other places, it's so extremely easy for you to do something pretty basic online. I mean, probably one of the easiest things to get access to is like Instagram.
Yes.
I mean, it's very, very easy for you to get an Instagram account and then just start snapping some photos, and you have to learn, obviously, a few technical things about Instagram, and then you're kind of away there. It's the same with kind of like a blog. A blog as well is something that you can relatively get started. You bring a couple of people on, a lot of the distribution companies, fantastic distribution companies out there will welcome kind of new vloggers new bloggers with open arms, to try and just get some additional exposure for their wares. And that's kind of interesting. On the flip side of that, I think podcasting's kind of middle of the road. I think you can get, we are speaking over Skype just now, and we're both recording using Audacity, I think, which is a free piece of software. And provided, the mics and everything and the levels will be set up, there's probably not going to be much difference in production values between, say, this podcast and a podcast that, Joe Rogan's podcast or something. You can't, do you know what I mean? There's not going to be a big difference between the quality in terms of audio quality as opposed to content quality between ourselves.
Content quality, actually, I'm thinking that Joe Rogan has things to learn to come to this level.
yeah, that was probably a wrong. But I guess what I would say is, if I was talking, like, say, about the Dice Tower or something like that, or So Very Wrong or Board Game Barrage, there's probably not going to be a huge difference in the audio quality between ourselves and maybe sporadically Board as well. But there's not that difference in level. Whereas if you go into, say, like, video, it turns into a rich man's game.
That's true.
Or a rich woman's game. It's incredible.
Also, editing skills are really important with video. You can make a great video with not good equipment if you know how to make it look good. You can so much edit if you are able to. Yeah.
I think because I put the podcast, as I say, I put the podcast on hold, and I'm still hosting shows. So what that means is that I have people who have their own podcasts. I have actually taken their shows and I've hosted them on my podcast space, because I've got the hosting there.
Yeah.
So I might as well kind of use it. But video's been a real challenge.
Yeah. It takes so much longer to edit if you want it to look good. And usually you want it to look good because you're in the video.
Yeah, and you can't just rock up with, like, you can't just really rock up with an idea and kind of get it going. I've been doing a few videos, and I'm trying to do them on a regular basis. And it is so funny. You can see the difference, but the difference is not in the quality of the content, it's the quality of the recording. So if you're recording on a phone but you're not using, like, a mic, the video will automatically look and sound 100 times worse. Whereas if you've got, like, a camera, smart lighting, a proper microphone in there, the difference is kind of like chalk and cheese.
Yes.
And also, you're right about the editing. I was watching a really funny video from Actual LOL today, and I was watching kind of Ben Maddox's latest one. That he was
the outside one.
He was on his top 5 games.
By the way, I have to add here, I knew that he will milk the top 10. Now he put 10 to 6, now 5, then 4, 3 will be in 2 parts, 2 will be in 3, and 1 will be 1 hour epilogue.
He's turning it into like some kind of Game of Thrones kind of thing. The last episode's going to be split into, like, an entire season or something like that.
As long as it doesn't become Lost.
Yeah.
You watched the series, I think.
Oh yeah, my goodness, yeah. We don't want. Yeah, he's gonna turn around and go, actually, everybody, I'm dead, and then he's gonna cut away. But
the doomsday came already.
Exactly. But what my point of kind of video is, I was watching those videos, and part of me was enjoying the content that was coming into my eyes and ears, but also part of me was really appreciating the amount of work that was going into the B-roll footage that was in it, that was going into the transitions that was in it, that was going into... How did he manage to film that sound when he was walking up? Was he using a lav mic? Was he using some kind of other mic kind of thing? So
I think he had a Bluetooth lavalier.
Yeah.
I think so. But those are ridiculously expensive.
They are ridiculously expensive. But you kind of look at it and you get a real appreciation for the types of videos. And it's unfortunate that the standard of videos is so high within the board game space that you can't put out a really, really good idea, and that's not going to cut it.
I liked your Arkwright video. I'm still waiting for you to send me the game.
Are you wanting that game?
Yeah, I love Arkwright. So the card game is like insta buy for me.
Did you get it then? Did you back it?
No. But it has too much shipping costs. I can get it cheaper after it's in retail.
Ah,
So
right.
I didn't
Okay.
back it because it's ridiculous to back something for 20 or 30 euros and then pay 10 to 20 euros for shipping. It's the same with this Mercado, the Lisboa 2-player game.
Mm-hmm.
It had 25 euro shipping, I think, to Finland, and the game was 29 or 39. It's ridiculous because I always look at how much the shipping cost is percent-wise compared to the game.
Mm.
Because if I don't like the game, I can never get even half my money back if I pay ridiculous shipping. I can wait.
Yeah, and that's the thing, especially if you decide you're going to sell something on.
Yeah, if I'm not keeping, I'm selling, of course. I don't have any shelf space. You saw the shelf behind me.
You've not got any shelf space.
No, not
because
anymore.
it's full of games.
Yeah, not anymore.
That's why you've not got any shelf space. I mean, it's not a case you've got shelf space.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, let's fundamentally get this correct.
Okay,
There's not
no
a
empty
case that
space.
you do not have
There's no free
a
space.
pile of shelves
No free
behind
space.
you.
Free
What
space.
you need to phrase that properly and say
I have
that
no
you've
free
actually
shelf
not
space.
got no free shelf space. You've got shelves. It's like being in the middle of a Calax factory, to be honest. But there you go. Yeah. So I reassessed. Basically, I got to reversing. I got to a space where I went. The podcast is really funny because the process of editing the podcast was basically getting to work 15-20 minutes early, have the computer ready to go, kind of load up what I was going to be listening to, listen to it, start doing editing, then over lunchtime kind of edit some more, and then finish it off at night and kind of make it live. And what I discovered was that because I was working at home, I couldn't, because of, my youngest and stuff like that, and having to take them to childminders and stuff, I couldn't really start work half an hour early because I had my work computer and then I had my own computer, so it was all kind of weird. But then we're talking about all this shame about people learning new skills and stuff like that. I am that annoying person who does get not bored easily, but constantly likes to do slightly different things. So I saw the video stuff as a way to kind of change and learn and do something different. So for me, and I don't know if it changed in that case because my circumstances changed and because it was a way for me to maybe deal with the current situation, was to maybe do something different that I could, I guess, tie into the pandemic experience. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? That if the videos, if the coronavirus situation kind of finished at the beginning of next year, then, and it was like, well, that means you can go back to how it was before. Then if I then went back and said, right, videos were great, but it's time to go back to what I was doing before, I could label that and keep it kind of separate. And also it's really strange because when you have a conversation, and this is what I was finding when I was doing the last couple of when I decided to do the episodes, it was physically impossible at that time to have a discussion with anyone without bringing up the current situation in the current situation in kind of like the world, what was happening. And that's all you're talking about. Everybody was talking about it, so it almost seemed ridiculous.
Yeah, to do it 10 times in a row.
Oh yeah, it seemed ridiculous to talk about board games while there was this going on and still talk about the relevance and people talking about being passionate when the board games were going on. Whereas in video, it's very much I can say, well, I'm not going to sit there and make commentary on what's happening in the world. What I'm doing is I'm here to show you how to play this game, or I'm telling you how to play this game and what I thought about it, or I'm pretending that I'm in a factory in Newcastle, trying to contact a game brewer to talk to me about the game. So there you go. So that was kind of it. I'm talking a lot.
Yeah. I noticed. I still have some questions, but you already replied to the next one because I wanted to ask specifically about you, because you quit this podcasting yourself, and then you moved to making video and having some time off from the podcasting. But you already replied that without me asking it. So how has it been, this change? Do you think you yourself have changed in the process? And if you have changed, into what direction and what way you have changed?
I think before I was very much kind of like, I was becoming a slave to the schedule. And I think and I've always enjoyed speaking to people. If the podcast was like, if the podcast was just like, thank you. If
everyone listening to this also noticed.
But but I enjoy listening to people and speaking to people. And as I say, there was the mixture of kind of like, do I want to be doing this? Is this the current time to try and be jovial and funny and entertaining type of thing? And try and push people into situations. Because that was the other thing, is like, I stopped the podcast because I thought, actually, let's just take a break until people are maybe sure. Because I noticed already that people were starting to cancel a bit more often, or weren't wanting to change plans. And there was the whole fact that people were turning around and saying, look, I'm going to have to cancel my Kickstarter because, you know, I was meant to be going to this conference, I was meant to be going to this show that was going to drag so many bums on seats, it was going to really help me, and now that's been cancelled. I don't know what I'm going to do, kind of thing. And also, there was the manufacturer in China. I mean, there was people that were talking to me, and they were going to be coming on and talking about what they were doing, their expansion, and they were saying to me, you know, I don't even know if my game's going to get made at the moment, because I don't know, you know, when the manufacturing facilities in China are going to be kind of opened up again. So there was that kind of thing.
It would have had negative effect on the guests, maybe, or mentally affect them in a wrong way. Maybe it's a good decision what you've done.
Yeah, and I think the podcast was always at a lower level. I never kind of got into the big I mean, we occasionally kind of got into the philosophical kind of discussions, and I think some of the most kind of highbrow stuff was actually with Ben, to be honest. I think it was the time where we just let loose and we just like talked about what was annoying us and stuff like that.
It was a good episode.
And you know, and on the other side of it, there was the occasionally the people who would come on the show who were only there to promote their stuff, and that was kind of like, that was a bit kind of, oh, okay. I mean, you never heard from them again, so there's that side of things.
I skipped those episodes, I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's, you know, and I totally expect some people to. I never expected everybody to listen to every episode. I expected people to kind of like pick and choose. That was the nature. You know, that was the nature. I still get people who contact me and say, well, I just started listening back to. It was interesting listening to that person at that particular time when they were speaking to you, knowing what happened to them kind of later on, kind of thing, which was kind of interesting. But the video from...
I'm going to add, when I found your podcast, I went back to the first episode, and every episode that has had a person that I somehow was interested in, I added all of those to the list. I'm probably listened maybe 60 of your episodes or something like that, but I went to the very beginning and took the old episodes there and such. Like the first Luke Hector episodes, they were old. I mean, they were in quite beginning, but that old. But you had very interesting guests in the beginning. For me, interesting at least. Like Patrick from Blueback Pinkback and other people.
Yeah, of course, he stopped being part of that show. He's been away for a little while, and
I've asked him to join this as well, but he's a bit busy with the schedule. But he promised that he will at some point.
Ah, that'd be good. That would be excellent. Yeah, but the long and the short of it was that I have done a lot of visual comedy. I have done stand-up comedy. I have done a lot of musical theatre. I have done various bits of acting and things like that. I have always my job has always kind of been in a kind of standing up in front of people in a kind of a explaining a situation through sales kind of manner. So, you know, video seemed like something that I hadn't done. And video's funny because board game media is very kind of...
Visual? Oh.
Yeah, it's very visual. It's also quite similar. There's not an awful lot of kind of innovation in it. And it's kind of interesting that as soon as, you know, that you can name all the people who are being pretty innovative on kind of like a couple of hands. And there's not a lot of people who kind of go out there and do something different. I'm not saying I was going to go out there and do something different and rock people's worlds, but
there's also this thing, sorry for interrupting, in the board game media, I wanted to say it earlier already, that you said that it's easy to begin and make an Instagram account, but you don't get anywhere unless someone, big one, somehow promotes you. You have to get that big channel to somehow notice you, or to promote you, or to someone to promote you. Do this follow Fridays or something. It's impossible to get the followers otherwise. Or then you can pay, or you can add your family and friends. But if you do it just for the media, it's not possible to like get a kickstart, so to say.
I think it can depend where you look. I think if there was anything I'll admit to doing wrong, and I have admitted doing many things wrong, but I think one of the things where maybe I would have done things differently would be to have built up more of a community.
Yeah.
I'm very much a kind of a single serving kind of sugar, single serving kind of cream type of show, whereas people will dip in. There's no continuation between you listening with an episode of Luke Hector or Michael May, or listening to an episode with John Gilmore and then listening to, you know, one with Mark Spector. There was no continuation. The format was probably the same, so as you went there was a continuation, but apart from that there was never really, if you missed episodes, you know, 330 to 375, you never really kind of missed a continuation of some kind of ongoing arc or narrative.
That's true.
You could dip in and dip out. And the other side of it, because of that, I never built a community, really. I had people who I became known to because of certain guests came on and went, yeah, I've been on this show, it was a lot of fun, you should listen. Then people came along and went, yeah, I did listen, and there are episodes which are a lot of fun, you know, and really enjoyed. But I never kind of had, and I had stalwarts, and there's some been really brilliant people who have supported me all the way through the entire podcast, like, you know, like yourself. And but I never had, like, say, what Board Game Barrage had, or Sporadically Bored had, or So Very Wrong had, or you know, I've never had kind of like a really interactive kind of Facebook group or anything like that. It's been quite, you know, and that's probably where I would say I was wrong. So I decided to take that and basically jump onto YouTube, which is disgustingly more difficult to get anywhere than any other kind of form of media, I think. And it's really strange because it's a very public kind of place, and that sounds strange, but when people listen to this, and they should, because it'll be amazing, but when people listen to this, it's not a case that you're going to get a raft of comments underneath when you release this saying, well, at, you know, minute 37 he said this and this was wrong, kind of thing, or this is really great, or people saying, oh, does he ever shut up? You don't kind of get that on any other form of media. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Continual. YouTube is so very, very public, and it's almost expected. It's like I remember, like, on the Arkwright video no, it wasn't Arkwright, it was the Anachrony video that I did. I got a thumbs down. And I was kind of like, oh, screw you then. kind of thing. But then I realised people just do that for the sake of kind of doing it. So I've had to learn, I think I've had to learn to, after being quite well known in the podcasting space, to be back down to being kind of like on the smaller fish again has kind of been liberating.
But that's actually good. Everyone should try that every now and then. To come down from the ivory towers, not to say that you're a wizard in a tower, but if they feel like I'm this big, this good, they should really come down and see if they really are. They should go out of the bubble to see that are they or not. There are some unnamed board game channels also and other people in the media sphere that seem to be a bit on a too high horse, and they should jump down for a while before they fall. But
I think it's interesting to see who would follow you if you change kind of what you're doing, who's actually there and who's going to miss your content. I am totally of the belief that if I stop doing everything tomorrow, then, you know, for the kind of the first kind of 3 or 4 weeks, people would be like, oh, that's a shame. You know, and then by kind of month 3 or 4, people would go, we're not what? I can't remember them kind of thing. I think it's because, again, we're back to the kind of the saturation kind of thing, you know.
And it's so easy to replace something that you stop, because there's the abundance of things. There are so many media, like you said already earlier. Like if you stop following some, then you don't even notice that you stopped. I just recently stopped subscribing a few podcasts, and I don't even notice they're missing.
Podcasts are really difficult though, and this goes back to me working from home, because I was traveling every day, 45 minutes kind of each way. So there's podcasts that I would check out, and now you would think that me working from home, I can basically listen to whatever I want.
No.
But what I found is that listening to stuff during the day while you're actually trying to concentrate on stuff is the worst bloody combination going, and you end up kind of going, it's different. If there's certain people that I will kind of listen to all the time, and you know, and you're able to have them on the background, but they're more background noise. I'm not actually listening to what they're kind of really saying, which I think is not the best. And then it's not a case that I can wander around the house at the weekend and, you know, my partner's, they're saying to me, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm just listening to a podcast. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you listening to a podcast in the house? So
it's actually the same here. I cannot listen anything unless I listen to things if I'm doing some chores or household things, or if I drive somewhere with a car, or if I'm mowing the lawn. Otherwise, I cannot listen. If I listen, I have to lay down on a bed and not do anything else. It's impossible, because the podcasts that I subscribe and listen to, I want to hear what they say there, and it's not possible if you try to concentrate on something else. I noticed that. It's actually funny. The wife began listening some podcasts in the summer because we have to go to work and such, because we don't get any movement if we are sitting home and just working at the computer. And she began listening to them, and every now and then she's been hanging around the house with headphones on, and I'm asking, what are you doing, like you said? And she says, I'm listening to podcast. And I'm asking, what? Because she doesn't have this thing, she doesn't listen when she's doing these household things or something. She's listening when she's walking. So also inside the house she's walking when she's listening. It's a bit funny, but it's not that common, just every now and then. She doesn't combine that with the errands or with some things, and I combine it with the errands, and it's so different. It's a bit interesting.
Well, it's different from, like, say, Netflix and stuff like that. It's not like everybody's like, oh, quick, gather round, let's listen to this podcast together. Podcasts are very, they're still a very, very personal form of media. It is very much kind of like, you know, entertainment just for you and just for you alone. I don't know of many people that would actively go ahead and, you know, put a podcast on, maybe in the background while they're doing something. It's just background noise, but I don't know many people who would put a podcast on and have, like, themselves and their significant other or housemate or partner or whatever kind of sitting and listening to them at the same time, which is kind of interesting. So but for me, the change was a challenge, because I've always looked at video editing and wanted to try it kind of thing, I think. And that's what really drew it. It's like, you kind of, what additional skills can I learn? Not for anyone else apart from myself. You know, not to be the best video maker ever, because everybody's, you know, I've always got a long way to go, but just to have something different and have something new to kind of learn.
I'm still trying to learn how to make these podcast episodes into videos. I'm trying to fight with OpenShot, and it's not very much agreeing to what I'm trying to do.
Good luck with that.
But especially this top 90 list that I just recently made, I want to put that to YouTube. Maybe someone will comment, because it's ridiculous that you are putting effort on these podcast episodes and people are not commenting. And I have to say at every episode that please interact with me, especially this list. I want to know your opinions on these games, but no. Because there is no platform by to comment to a podcast. I think that's the biggest thing missing from podcast or podcasting as a whole, that it's not like YouTube that you can comment, like you said, that at some minutes he said a bad word, or there was no cable on the phone, or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, and I don't know if I don't know if people kind of like that. I don't know if people kind of like not being having their own enjoyment decided by other people as well, because I think videos are very much a kind of you'll watch a video, but they always say don't read the comments, but if you read a comment on the video and you see somebody say, well, actually I think you'll find that they should have had 3 victory points instead of 4, and you're kind of like, well, I really enjoyed that video, so you know go away, kind of thing. And it kind of sullies your overall kind of enjoyment, so there you go. But yeah, so it's been interesting. It's been a strange year.
But interesting, at least.
It's never a dull moment, is it? Never a dull moment.
We're running a bit long with this, but what do you expect from the future when it comes to you and your board game media?
I think it's not a long-term thing. I don't think it can be. I think in order to... Board game media is a funny place in that it's a lot smaller than people kind of make it out to be. I think there's always this kind of illusion that there's only a couple of really, really big players. And even the big players, when you compare them to kind of everybody else out there, they're entirely small. I mean, Shut Up and Sit Down is huge. However, my son was watching a YouTube person play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that person has got literally kind of 10 times the subscriber, if not more, rate than Shut Up and Sit Down has, and automatically has like 100,000 times more views than they do. So while Shut Up and Sit Down are huge to us, they're actually in the largest scheme of things, they're kind of big. So I guess I'm in a place where board games are, if it gets financial and people would ever pay me for doing stuff for board games, and it's never ever going to be a full-time job. It's always going to be, a nice place where I get to do review copies. I get to muck around. I have a hell of a good time doing it all the same time. But I'm never going to be kind of in that situation where I'm going to try and make a kind of a career out of it. I don't think board game... Okay, here's a controversial question. Here's a controversial statement. I'm not sure if board game media people deserve to be making a kind of a full-time living out of it, unless they're giving something directly back to the space.
Would you want to be full-time media creator?
No. I would.
I wouldn't.
If I could.
I wouldn't.
If I could. But then I love to be creative. There's a million and one things. It's like people said to me, I always see these things in the lottery when you see, so you won I see you won the lottery there, Dave. You've won £16 million. So what are you going to do? I don't know. I'll probably just keep on working, because I like doing it. I'd be like, I don't know. If I could, I'd create stuff kind of full time. I think.
Yeah.
I would create stuff full time, but that's because I've always liked kind of creating stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I would also do full time if I had some economical how can I say, stability in a way that I wouldn't have to work. But I wouldn't want the money to come from the board game, like publishers or the field anyway. But if I won in a lottery, that's something that I might consider. But I would probably still want to do some research and teach, because that's what I've studied to be. So I wouldn't have studied to become something that I don't want to do.
Yeah, I think I would, if I was doing the creative stuff, I would continue doing the creative stuff. But it's a kind of a testament to the people who are, people like the Dice Tower and places like that still have to have a huge funding drive to keep going.
Yes.
Because obviously, while board game media, and Kickstarter is literally making millions and millions of dollars at a time, it's like very similar to the video game media, in that there's literally none of that money is coming back to kind of like the board game media kind of people. And I think if you want to, I don't think you can live in the board game media space and make a horrific amount of money out of it just by producing content. I think you need to be going out to your audience or sponsors or, and the guys that are making it into a full-time job are like your Rados of this world. Rado's still doing still has a Patreon.
He's also doing previews. I don't know if he's taking money from them, but
he's doing previews. He's probably taking monies for the previews. No pun included. They're just doing their Patreon. I know that they're not paid for previews. Shut Up and Sit Down have their yearly thing, but I think they're maybe one of the few people who are at the place where they're getting money from various different places, not doing kind of paid previews. But I think they're doing more consultancy type stuff and things like that as well. And I don't know, maybe I was a bit harsh saying that people don't deserve to. No, I don't think it's not a case of people don't deserve. I don't think people should expect to be able to make a living out of board game media. And if you are that interested in board games, then I think you're more likely to take the leap into the other side and get involved in the design side of things, the actual production side of things, the creative in the board game side of things, that kind of thing. That's what I'd be thinking about.
So if you begin doing some board game media creation thing, you shouldn't expect to get any money from it. I think that's kind of how you should approach it.
Yeah, I think manage your expectations.
Yeah, don't expect that you will get lots of money. That's probably what you are trying to say, and that's what I think at least.
Yeah. I think there's some people that do make money from it.
Yeah.
And there's potential to make some decent money out of it. But I think you need to approach it in a completely different way. And I think the natural way that people move up the industry in board game media is by developing a lot of relationships with board game developers and creators, which then is a whole other question about relationships between board game media and board game design companies, and financial relationships as well, which is a whole different conversation. And we don't have the time.
No, we don't
have the time, Yanni.
You are close to your bedtime soon, so.
Yeah, I know. Well, I am old.
You have prepared also a top 9 list, and according to you the topic of the top 9 is top 9 games we have enjoyed during pandemic that can be played with not that many players. Is it correct?
Yes, pretty much. Games that I have managed to play within the confines, which don't require a lot of players, but have also kind of really enamoured me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this list very quickly, because I'm very conscious I'm taking up. And people would have gone, oh, for goodness sake, what, he's got a list now? So I'm going to go through very quickly.
Wait, can we go one by one from 9 to 1? So that we do...
Yes, we can.
You do one, I do one.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
How did you make the list?
I had a pen.
I mean, how did you rank the games? Was it easy?
How did I rank the games? It was fairly easy. There was a couple of ones that have absolutely stuck out to me over the last kind of 6 months now that seem to be kind of coming back kind of again and again in some way or another, which which I really like. So here you go.
Do you want to give any honorable mentions, that just some games that you want to mention that just didn't make the list?
Yeah, Arkwright, actually.
The big one or the card game?
The card game.
So it was good.
It was complicated, but it was very tasty.
No, come on, it's a card game.
It was okay. And also, I put it at number 75. I put City of the Big Shoulders.
But we still have that one game going.
We still have that one game.
That's why you're taking 3 days to take your turn.
I just look at it and I just go, really?
But you said that you can try again.
I said I was going to try again, but then I also said I was going to potentially try and rip out one of my toenails with a set of pliers. So it was one or the other. But that's a joke.
But at least you didn't put needle under the nail and kick
At
the
least
ball.
I didn't put, exactly. That is one of the things. Honourable mentions. I do joke about City of the Big Shoulders, but it is so far down, it's ridiculous. Let me just see. Flip Over Frog.
That's a good game, actually.
Flip Over Frog from Hub Games is delightful, very simple really kind of title. Yeah, very simple
but
title.
It's not simple either. It's deeper than it looks.
Simple to learn.
Yes.
Look at it that
very
way.
Simple to learn. But with 2 players, it's really, really, really hard in a way. It has more meat than it looks like.
No, absolutely. Yes, definitely. Yeah, so that's been kind of interesting. So that was probably the only honourable mention.
I have 3 that I want to mention. 2 I played in Board Game Arena, and I bought a physical copy after playing them. And they are Targi and Innovation. I think I played Innovation once with you as well. But
yes.
That was crazy, like the game is. But they were quite well online. And Targi is a game that I've been thinking for a very long time to try and buy, and now I tried it, so I bought it. And one more is Estates. We've had maybe 3 times game day or something, 3 or 4 times during the pandemic here. And 2 of those times we played Estates, and both times the game was so different and it worked so well. But it didn't quite reach the list. But I really enjoyed it.
I like that. I guess the only other thing I would mention would be Abandon All Artichokes. Which is a very simple but very fun kind of card game where you're essentially trying to remove your hand, all the artichokes that are in your hand. So it's a good
remove your hand.
Remove your hand. You're just going to take it off. There's so many. But there's Kickstarter ones that have been played recently. Die of the Dead, which was on Kickstarter quite recently. What else has been quite good? Taverns of Tiefenthal. That was a pleasant surprise.
I played it in March. It was during the very beginning of COVID.
It was one of these strange things that I think I kind of, my thoughts on it were quite simple. That here is a game that they introduce the worst parts of the game to you as the full game, and then introduce the best parts of the game once you've played the worst parts of the game by saying, oh, if you like the game so far, but I don't, you should play it with these bits. Oh, and then I play it with those bits and discover that I've got an actually completely better and more wonderful game that was there.
It's so silly to play without all those modules. Just put all of them in and it becomes so different and so much better.
It does. So
it's like 3 times better.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. So that would be my honourable mentions. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. So are you ready?
Yes, I am.
To begin
with
the number 9.
Uh-huh.
Now we need Erik Sammerer here actually.
Oh right,
number
okay,
9.
I can do yeah. Okay.
You do the next one.
Okay. And Richard's number 9 is Kahuna.
Kahuna, do you want to say anything about the game?
Kahuna is a very simple kind of 2-player area control game where you will lay. It's about you're basically trying to lay bridges between islands, and if you control all of the bridges on an island, then you get to put a token down on your island. You get to claim it. It's a card game, so what will happen is in order to play a bridge, in order to play a bridge, you've got to have the card in your hand. In order to remove another player's bridge, you've got to have two of the same cards. And every card has a particular island on it, and so by having that card, you're allowed to play a bridge on that particular island. So I played it on Board Game Arena a few times with various people, and also with Sam Turner from the Staying In podcast, and that was fun. So that's my number 9, Kahuna.
I can play that if you want to. I haven't played it for a long time, but I didn't even notice it's in Board Game Arena, actually.
Yes, it is.
It's a good game.
It's a good game.
My number 9 is Seasons, and this is here because when the COVID began, we played it 2 times on the following days with the wife, and this is almost perfect 2-player game. I played it in Board Game Arena, and I didn't really like the online implementation of it, but when you play 2-player on the table, it's so good. Do you know how the Seasons is? Have you played it?
A little bit. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So basically it's a card game where you try to summon things. Your mages battling each other, and whoever has the most points from the things summoned at the end of the game wins the game. And there's not much about the game other than that, except that it's really pretty. I like the artwork.
I've seen, the artwork on it is absolutely... I've seen it being played at... I saw Matthew Jude, I think, playing a game at Aircon last year, which was interesting. Number 8. Shall we move on to number 8?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 8. Yahtzee. That's number 8. Yahtzee.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today. And no, not really. Just explain yourself.
Yeah, easy. Right, okay. I was like that as well. I used to be a non-believer, but I have played probably more games of Yahtzee on Board Game Arena than I can even talk about. And I was at the beginning, I was just like, it's such a simple, kind of simple game just to while away the hours, and you don't have to concentrate on it. And, you could set it up and you can play a game over a lunchtime, and you can walk away. It's perfect for kind of like online play, because you can walk away from it for days, and then when you come back in again, you're instantly kind of, well, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
No, it's good. It's much better than people give credit for.
It is. I think it's one of these things that people are talking about dice games. They really should consider it, because I went in with the same attitude, kind of, how good can it be? It turns out actually pretty damn good. And
I think if you play it online or with the computer, it becomes like Minesweeper earlier for the Windows. So you can just roll and mark somewhere, especially if you would play it alone. So it's fun.
I like that. Okay, your number 8.
My number 8 is Terra Mystica, and this was very high on the list. This was actually on the first spot when I first made the list. Then I thought that I have to rearrange it a bit, that what is hotter at the moment, because I've now played 8 games of Terra Mystica in Board Game Arena, and I have the 9th going on, and it's becoming a bit... it's not bad, but it's becoming a bit stale because there's no expansions. I would really want to play it with the expansions. I have the expansions myself, but I still haven't played with them. And I don't know, it's just... It goes the same way, depending what races there are in the game. It was higher, but now it came down a bit. 9 games is enough for half a year. Exactly. No, and I once had 3 games on at the same time of Terra Mystica, and I screwed up 2 of them because I looked the colors wrong, and I don't do that again. There will be only one painful. Terra Mystica open.
That'd be absolutely painful. Okay, number 7.
Yep.
Number 7, Dice Forge. Number 7. This is the last digital game that I have in the list. Everything else after that is like physical game. Yeah. Dice Forge is a very, very simple dice drafting, dice manipulation game, and it looks spectacular, and it is again another one of these games where the overall strategy, you don't need an overall huge strategy in it. You just need to be very aware roughly of what your plans are going to be kind of in the future. And I have this physical copy, and it's strange that in many ways the digital version of Dice Forge is easier to play than the physical version of Dice Forge, just due to the fact that in the physical game of Dice Forge you have to spend an hour and a half of your time taking the faces off the flipping dice.
You need to learn the technique first.
Oh, you need to learn. I mean, once you get it going, you're fine. But beforehand, you're just like, what? Again? Oh, my days. So there we go. So that's number 7, Dice Forge.
Once in every 3 turns, you have to go to the floor, try to find the piece that just flew there.
Exactly.
I've played it years ago. I forgot that I have it on the shelf. We liked it.
Nice.
It's so similar feeling to Seasons that it's good, but I haven't played it for years.
No, that's good.
It's a good game. My number 7 is a game that I played with you once, and I think that you didn't understand Richard Priest's rules, and this is Keyflower. I've played it 3 times in Board Game Arena, and 1 game is on now with people from Sporadically Board, and that game is taking very long, it seems, because the one who put it up put no time limit, and I think it's 2nd round and it's been open 1 week, and I don't know what I will do with that game. But Keyflower is really interesting, different type of game. I don't know what you thought about it, but I don't think this should be played with more than 3.
No, it will
become too uncontrollable.
It just goes all over the place, and I wouldn't look forward to playing it. I think it's one of these games, I think it makes more... There's certain games on Board Game Arena that you know why people play physically in front of each other. And I think games like Keyflower, and even City of the Big Shoulders for some way, is very much a game where you need to be face to face in front of you, or at least be able to see physically your opponents in order to
especially Keyflower.
I think I'm not 100% on that at all.
The difficulty with this online is that you don't remember what meeples the other people might have. Because if you play it face to face, you see what they get from the board, and you might remember that, okay, he has red and she has yellow. I know that I shouldn't bid those. But now when it's online, you have you can't remember unless you mark them down. Exactly.
Number 6, Catacombs Cubes. That's a number 6, Catacombs Cubes. I'm a huge fan of Catacombs. Literally,
I haven't played any version. I'm really interested to try, but no one has them.
Love Catacombs. It's one of these games that I did a review of it. I'm absolutely dreadful at playing Catacombs. I'm terrible. My finger work is a disgrace. However, there is something about the various iterations of flicking a disc about the place and hitting other things I really like. Catacombs Cubes is completely different in than what you're doing is you're building buildings using tetrominoes, little different shaped wooden blocks, in order to kind of represent buildings that you're building, and you score points and you have a chance to build a palace, and it's all really big and it's really chunky and it has a table presence and it's brightly coloured, and it's a bold step from Elsra to continue to do things, try and do something different when they could have just sat on the Catacombs franchise. And I've heard people, there's games that's kind of like people claim it's similar to, in terms that you're using blocks to build buildings, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I really like it. It's lovely for kids. It's very simple to learn. It's a really kind of easy to medium type entry type game. If you want it to be a bit more difficult, you can, and I just really like it.
Alright, I have nothing to say because I haven't played it. My number 6 is a game that we just played recently with 3 people here, and this is on the list mostly because we played it 2 times in a row, and it's not a light game. I don't remember when I played a game 2 times in a row with the same group that is not like roll dice and see who wins. That isn't light. This is Pax Transhumanity.
Wow, okay.
We played it twice because the first time we felt that, okay, this is difficult and it took long. It took us maybe 90 minutes or a bit over 90 minutes to play it the first time. Then we played another time and we were done in an hour. So basically we wanted to play the second time to see how it works when you remember the rules and you don't have to learn it with the rule book even if you learned it beforehand. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
The first game you needed to understand how the things worked. I mean, I had played it in SN, but the others who didn't play it earlier, they didn't necessarily connect the things. But the second game went so quickly and was so fluid and everything worked so well. And this really deserves a spot because we played it twice in a row and it's not a half an hour game.
Cool. Number 5. Yes? I have not played it, so I cannot comment.
Your number 5. You haven't played it.
My number 5. I have played it. It's a game called Donut Dash.
Uh-huh.
It is a programming game.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it along the same lines as maybe a smaller version of Mechs versus Minions and that type of thing. And what you're doing is you are guiding thieves about a donut factory in order to try and steal donuts. And follow the points of a compass, and it's deliciously more complicated than it lets on. It kind of comes at you like it's pretending to be some kind of child's simple and friendly game, but there's a lot of depth and strategy. And in the game, you're trying to collect certain flavors of donuts. We're avoiding the tomato ketchup flavored donut and trying to collect a certain number of donuts in order to score points at the end. And it's not a looker by any chance. It doesn't look an amazing game on the table, but it was one of these where it was a complicated concept which is explained very, very well by the mechanics, and so my son was able to play it and he rather enjoyed it. So that's Donut Dash by the Dark Imp, basically.
How old is your son, by the way?
He's 7.
Oh, okay. Because my number 5 is a game that I played with my 4-year-old daughter.
Ah.
And this is Uno.
Oh, yeah.
And let's say that this game is a lot better 2-player game than multiplayer game. It's really good with 2 because, I mean, we played it 4 times in a row because I'm trying to teach the daughter now how to keep her cards hidden. We are at that stage of learning games because cards are usually difficult to keep hidden if you're not used to that.
Yeah.
And this works very well, and we played it with the daughter and the wife also, and it worked very well with 3 of us. But you can see that with 2 people, these special cards are much better than in 3 players. And how can I say? This is one of those like Yahtzee. It's much better than people give it credit for, and it depends who you play it with. I wouldn't play Uno with my gamer friends, but as a family game, it's quite good, and I've really enjoyed it lately. We just got our own copy 1 week ago. We didn't have it earlier.
I've played it with my son on the PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. I actually wrote a review of the PlayStation 4 version of the game probably about 6 or 7 months ago, and it was the same thing, except in the PlayStation 4 game, you have to play 4-player. You don't get the choice of playing 2-player. They bring in two kind of bots. But yeah, it was good fun, and it was kind of like one of these. It's the kind of the snobbishness, the board game snobbishness coming out, where you're kind of like, I don't want to play this game, but then when you get into it, you're kind of like, actually, it's probably as cutthroat as anything else, especially when you're laying cards on people and they have to go ahead and pick up like 16 cards, and you just see them. You see
especially
them
in two-player game, it's bad because you can take two, and you can see the mouth going from up to down when that happened.
Absolutely. So that was Uno.
Yep.
Number 4 is Anachrony by Mind Clash Games. Where do I start with Anachrony? It is quite simply, if I was able to get out and about and play it with more people, I would probably try to get as many people playing this game as possible, because it is rather wonderful that it disguises itself under what it appears to be blanket complication and confusion, and yet for some reason, for a game that once you start playing it, it makes so much sense and slides so easily into place that it's relatively quite simple to learn and play once you get over that hurdle, and then after that it's wonderful. I really kind of was pleasantly surprised by the complete lack of correlation between all the symbology on the board and the rule book that was there and actually playing the game itself. And everything has just been done to such a high standard. The rule book is really good. The artwork is fantastic. The mechanics just make actual really good sense of a very, very difficult concept to come across. And the only reason I've put it down at number 4 is quite simply because of the number of times I was able to play it, which was very, very few times indeed.
Did you play it with people or did you play it solo?
I did both.
Okay. You have the newer version, right?
Yes.
If I remember right. Okay, I have the old version with the huge box. And I've only played it once in my life, and I'm so eager to play it again. And I think the only difficulty in the game is that symbology, but Mind Class games have that in all their games. You have to learn a language before you can learn the game.
Yeah.
But the game is so good. I totally agree with you on everything you said.
Actually,
I want to play it again soon.
And this is what I thought. It was once you got into the symbology, there actually isn't that many symbols.
Yes.
There's not that many symbols once you're in it, which was kind of good, yeah. But no, I muddled through on the solo player. But it was actually quite easy to teach. So that was Anachrony. What about your number 4?
My number 4 is a surprise, because it just came to beta in Board Game Arena, and since its release I played it one after another, and it's St. Petersburg.
Oh, okay.
And this is a gem from the past. I have the second edition on the shelf, and it's ridiculous. This game is, by the way, really expensive. I looked, they're selling this first edition for 80 euros in Finland, and this second edition is about 100 euros in Board Game Geek.
Wow.
Geek market. It's ridiculous. But this is a really great game, and if you're able to try it in Board Game Arena, it works on the table probably best with 2, but in Board Game Arena it doesn't take any extra time if people are playing it actively. It's really, really good, and I noticed that it works with 4 players also.
Well, let's get a game of that set up then. I'm quite happy to play that. Yes.
Will you read the rules, or have you played it?
No, I will not read the rules. There's no point. We'll just dive in. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah. But it's easy game. You can probably do it better than with City of the Big Soldiers. Okay. What's
I didn't say you needed
3?
big shoulders in order to carry the flipping rule book for that. I'll tell you. Okay. My number 3 is The Court of Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
From Lucky
Never
Duck
heard.
Games. It's relatively quite new.
Never heard.
And it is a area control game. You're basically a beggar. You're trying to control as many areas as you possibly can, and it's a mixture of kind of like area control and worker placement, and it's extremely simple. In a round, you'll place your disc, because you have discs. You'll place your disc kind of face down in a space, and what you'll do is you'll collect coins, or you'll have a card, or you'll move the beggar king further around this track, and you also get the benefit of the area that you're in. There's only 3 spaces in every area. There's only 4 areas, 5 areas in total, off the top of my head. And as the beggar king moves around spaces, he'll come across a space which triggers a showdown. and then between you and any other players in a particular area, you have got to, if you have got the most power between the two of you, you win, you get renowned, you get to control that particular area. And it's basically the person who manages to put their renown in across all as many areas as possible gets rid of the renown first of all. They win the game, or if the Beggar King gets all the way around the city, then it's whoever's got the most renown. It's very simple. However, it's very tactical. It's very backstabbing-y, taking areas over and stuff like that, and I really, really, really like it.
I had to check from Board Game Geek. I've never even seen this. It's interesting. It seems that it's originally this French game and brought by Lucky Duck Games. They did the same for some other games also.
Yes.
I don't now remember which ones.
Which was interesting because I looked at Time Garden recently, who was also, they kind of distributed that, and I didn't. I thought Time Garden was overproduced. Whereas I thought this, the artwork in it is absolutely stunning. It's totally my bag. Just the way the artwork is, the tokens they are, the simplicity of it, how easy it is to learn, and how complicated it gets very quickly. I really, really like it. So that's Court of Miracles at number 3.
My number 3 is a game that shall not be named, but it's City of the Big Shoulders. And maybe I save you from this, but this is a fantastic somehow symbiosis between 18xx games and Arkwright, and this does things right. It would be on the first place if the expansion was in Board Game Arena, and if I had the expansion. It's sold out everywhere and out of print and everything. So if by some reason Gwinnett Games is listening to this, you can send me one, thank you. But this is really good game. The first time I played with the expansion, and it made it good because there's better distribution of the companies. And in the base game there are some companies are more important than the others, and I think that the distribution should be better. But this is a great game, in my opinion.
Yes, in your opinion, I'm sure it's absolutely fantastic. Other things,
my correct opinion.
Other things that Yanni likes includes paper cuts in baths of lemon juice. He also likes crossing his eyes when he crosses the street to make it more challenging. He thoroughly enjoyed the last episode of Dexter. He said that was a classic, and he always finds his most fun that he likes to do is to go to the cinema, then go to the cinema again and spoil the film, and then play Chase Me Down the Street. So this is the type of person that you're dealing with. Number 2.
It seems like you're talking from experience of your own. Anyway, what's your number 2?
Yeah, Han Solo died. Get over it. My number 2, and it's not a number 2, is My Little Scythe by Stonemaier Games.
I still want to play this.
This is the difference between this and Scythe is the fact that Scythe gave the impression it was a war game, and it was essentially a resource management game in wartime clothing. And so a lot of people that I know played Scythe expecting to be battling mechs and walked away from it going, oh, I didn't realise that being popular would win me the game, kind of thing. My Little Scythe has kind of got round that by declaring from the very beginning that you are essentially trying to be as popular or have as many apples or as many pies or, you know, as possible, and it kind of very much wears its heart on its sleeve. It looks, but it doesn't entirely get away from being completely kind of cutthroat, but it's also a delight to play, and it's one of these games that whether or not you win or lose at the game, everybody seems to have a stunningly good time. It looks lovely on the table. It's a plethora of rainbow-like colours with beautiful, stunning-looking miniatures, solid components, and it has such a massive table presence. And I've played it with my youngest. I've played it with my middle son, and it does allow you to kind of be cutthroat. It doesn't spend too long at the table as well, so little brains won't get bored and start to wander. You can pretty much get a game kind of played within about half an hour to 45 minutes. Yeah.
I don't think Jamie is listening to this.
I don't care.
Okay, then go on.
I love it. There you go. That's my number 2. That's my number 2, which isn't a number 2.
No, you were praising it so much.
Oh, I do like. No, I just really like it.
Yeah,
it was pleasant.
I want to play this. Do you remember what is the minimum suggested age?
Oh, you can get away with. I mean, you can probably get away with a 4 or 5. I mean, it's very, very.
Does it have any hidden information?
No, it's all. Well, there's a bonus card that you can play, but you can kind of ignore that card if you want to.
Do you have to know how to read?
No, because there's a lot of symbology on there, so you get around it. It's pretty easy.
Okay, then I'll put this on my list of games to get.
Okay.
Home.
What's your number 2? It's
my
not
number 2.
City of the Big Shoulders again, is it? You're not allowed to have it in twice.
It's it's Clans of Caledonia. Have you played this?
Yes, I have.
This is superb in Board Game Arena. It works so well there. It is like a perfect translation from the board game to the digital form. And this is not first, mostly because I've played it less than the one that is number 1. And this is really, really, really good. It's a bit lighter than Terra Mystica, and it has some similar genes in it, but it's really good and works very well in Board Game Arena. If you never tried this game, you should really try this. It's hidden gem in a way, a bit.
I'll definitely give it a shot on Board Game Arena then. Oh, I'm not going to get any work. I'm not going to get any work done at this rate.
Yeah, but I'll play this anytime if someone wants. If I don't have 10 games on. Currently, I have Madeira 2, City of the Big Shoulders, 1 Terra Mystica, and I can't take another heavy game until one of them.
Far too many. Okay, number 1. Endangered.
Mm-hmm. I still haven't
from Grand Gamers Guild, which I played the solo. When I first played it, I played the solo version. I played it by myself and then lost and instantly set it back up and played it again.
That's a good sign for a solo mod.
Because it is essentially a game like, imagine it's kind of like the basis of Pandemic, where you're basically taking actions in order to save the tigers or the sea otters from extinction, and you are rolling dice, and you're taking your dice that you've rolled and you're placing them on cards in order to perform actions, and as the game goes you will play cards onto the table which everybody can use as actions, not just yourself, because it's a fully cooperative game, and the aim of the game is you're trying to get the UN to agree a resolution to save the tigers. And I have played it physically a good number of times. I have played it. I actually, at the recent Shelfapalooza online kind of con, I took 4 people I didn't know and I taught them how to play it on Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did it work there?
It worked really, really well. Everybody had an absolutely fantastic time. I believe that actually Endangered is available for people to get, to try it out. It had a Kickstarter that didn't do too well. Mm-hmm. So the base game that originally went out there wasn't maybe as brilliant as it could be. It's then just run another Kickstarter to bring itself back to the table, and it stormed it. And it's bringing a whole pile of wonderful expansions, because you basically can expand the game by just introducing new species. So it's basically Pandemic, but you're working together, but there's not really a kind of a quarterbacking thing, because it's not a puzzle. It kind of changes every time. So that's my number 1. Really, really kind of enjoyed playing this over the last kind of 6 months.
I've heard a lot of good things about this, and it's really interesting to me. What do you think? Is it easy for a kid to play. Maybe not. It
No.
sounds like it's more complicated.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated. I think it would be something that you would definitely need, kind of add a lot of adult hand holding and supervision. Not to say that they couldn't help kind of make things happen, but
And I'm talking about normal children, not those who play Caverna when they're 5 and Agricola at 6.
No, I'd definitely say it's definitely an adult game, yeah.
Okay, that's how I think. But the theme is super cool. It would be cool for a kid also.
Oh, yeah.
You could teach them that these animals should be saved and they are endangered. If something happens to them, they can't reproduce. Let's say that there are no female left from the tigers, and what will happen. So it would be good in this ecological sense.
Yes, it would be. Absolutely, but yeah, from there. So that's my number. That's my number one. That is Endangered by Grand Gamers Guild.
All right. Do you want to guess my number one?
No.
Did we play this? I think I played this with you. It's Race for the Galaxy, because I played it.
Oh, yes.
10 times online.
Yes,
It's perfect in board game arena.
Yes.
Did you like this?
No.
What's wrong with you?
No. It's fine. It's fine as a game. It's fine. Do you know what? I think it's another one of these games. I think it really benefits from you actually being in front of the person to lay down a bit of the smack talk and just to see somebody's reaction. That's my only issue with Board Game Arena is, and I guess that's just the online playing, is the kind of the lack of ability to actually talk to people in real time.
If you have premium account, you can, if you play a real time game, you can open a voice chat, or you can use Discord or something else, or you can open Skype and just play. But yeah, that's true. And I've only played this turn-based there, but in real time this is like 5 minutes. I forgot 7 Wonders. That's so perfect in real time there. Oh, anyway.
Can't adjust your list now.
But this Race for the Galaxy is really good there, and it has all the expansions as far as I know, so you can add the expansions and change them, and it doesn't become stale like Terra Mystica might. And this is why this is first, and I've played it the most also in there. I wouldn't play this in the card form. It takes 5 times the time to play it with the physical cards, and just looking at them and paying and taking new and shuffling the deck and then taking and paying. But with the Board Game Arena, it's really quick. You can just click it away and be done with it, and still get some kind of enjoyment out of it.
No, it was good fun. It was good fun. So I think that's a nice little list.
Yeah, I'm going to put these lists against each other. What do you think of your chances of winning?
Oh, definitely not. No chance at all. Not even in the slightest.
But I have Uno on the list.
Yeah, but I have Yahtzee on the list.
Uno is more hated than Yahtzee.
We'll see.
But let's see.
We'll see.
And you have more followers and more following, so
we'll see.
It doesn't really matter. It's just fun.
We'll see. It's
just for visibility.
Just for visibility and fun, and to click those likes to get our little bits of serotonin and endorphins kind of going. Please like us, as we would say.
Yes. Do you have anything you want to add? It has been a lot of fun listening to you and everything, but it's been almost 2 hours.
I know, I'm really sorry. It's like, this is the thing. It's
don't worry.
Ever let me on to your show unless you've got like a cut-off button where you can stop me from talking.
No, but even if I mute you or block you, you will still record.
I'm still going to record.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
So it doesn't work like Twitter. I'm sorry.
No. I'm looking forward to getting back and playing games with people. I think if there's one thing I've taken away from this year, it's like that actually the company means more to me than the game that we're playing. I think.
I'm at the same position in a way. I'm trying to get my wife to play a game with me, but she's been doing her PhD, trying to finish it, and she says that she can't learn a new game, and I'm not willing to play old ones.
Exactly. No, that's the only thing. I think if it's taught me, it's not taught me that board games aren't important. I think they are. I think it's been important to have that time away from kind of blaring and media and sound bites and films and social media, and it's so nice to drift away more than ever, to have kind of like some kind of me time and me space, and even think space where you're not having to worry and you can concentrate on something else. It's so precious just now. It's so absolutely precious to so many people that I think, while everybody mourns not having these cons and stuff like that, the fact that we have been having kind of virtual cons and people have been really enjoying themselves kind of speaks a lot. So
I haven't attended any virtual cons. I have to admit, I have no interest, zero interest, because the lack of the people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, because they're in the weekends. Weekend is family time to me. I don't really open the computer, so I don't want to sit in front of the computer staring at virtual people if I can spend that time with my family. Because work and daycare and everything, I only get to see the daughter maybe 3 hours an evening, 4 hours an evening.
Yeah.
And the weekend is the time we go to swim on Saturday morning. We have this family swimming thing, and then we just spend the time home. We watch movies, we do something, we go out. I really don't. I open the computer in the evenings and that's it. I'm not going to open the computer daytime in the weekends. That's how I've been doing now since summer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that haven't gone to the virtual cons because there isn't any people.
I want to go and they interest me in a way, but in the order of importance they are lower now.
Well, I did the one with Endangered because it was a chance to speak to people, I think. I think I would have been maybe feeling slightly differently if I'd just been rocking up. But we'll see, because that might become more of a normality. But there you go. But thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. But you haven't said that where people can find you if they don't know where they can find you.
Well, you can find us at all different types of places, Worn Out Faces, bright and early for the daily races. You can find us on, we've got our podcast. Well, if you go to Googles and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us on our podcast, which is we'renotwizards.com. You'll find us on our blog, which is we'renotwizards.co.uk, where we put our written reviews. You can find us on Twitter, which is We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Instagram for our pictures, which is We're Not Wizards. You can email us, which is magic@we'renotwizards. Yes, I'm aware of the irony of the email address. That's why I chose it. You can find us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/c/We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. And all those other places. We're on Board Game Geek. We've got a guild. It's just everywhere. We're like see, that used to be the joke. We're everywhere, like spreading like some kind of virus, and then we had to drop that because it was no longer. It was a bit tasteless. So you can find us in those places. And if you really like what you've listened to tonight, please jump on to the Apple Podcasts and give this episode a rating or a review. And if you are going to be giving it a rating or review, remember, don't give it 10 stars, because Yanni, we don't want Yanni feeling more important than he really is. But don't give him 1 star, because there's nothing sadder than a man from Finland crying away because he's got 1 star. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. Man, I'm a little bit average, but Yanni isn't. So there you go.
You missed that, didn't you? So there's only one more thing left to say. And that is that we are wizards. No, wait. How did it go?
There's only one more thing to do. Is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards.
We're hot wizards.
We're hot wizards. We're smoking wizards. We're out in the land we're out in the spandex and the latex. We are doing the TikTok dance. We're throwing our high heels on, and we're dressing out. And we've got that booty going on. Check out our wands. That's all I'll say.
Spandex doesn't suit me. I'm sorry.
Well, there you go. Boom.
But thank you so much for joining me and talking long and having a great top 9 list with the longest topic ever.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. I don't think that many people will listen anyway. But for you, maybe they will.
No, we'll see.
It has been fun. So, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find this podcast from SoundCloud with username Mitä Pelataan. You can also find the podcast from Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Should be in Amazon Podcasts also at some point. And it should be found anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can find me from Instagram and Twitter with username Mitä Pelataan. There's a page in Facebook, Mitä Pelata, and you can just search by Mitä Pelataan and you should find me from many places. I have a blog, mitapelataan.wordpress.com, where you can find information about this channel and all the links to related media. You should be able to find me from YouTube as well by searching Mitä Pelataan. You can send me email to mitapelataan@gmail.com. There's also a guild in Boardgame Geek, number 3321. Interact in any way you can, comment anything, up to you, but interact with me please. And if you listen this far, please leave a review, subscribe so that people find out about this podcast. And one more time, thank you for listening and bye bye. The music used in this series was Nightwalker by Sentient Pulse. Thank you for that.